part.
It's not actually.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Arts and Culture Board meeting for Thursday, August 2025. We'll call the meeting to order with the quorum, and the very first thing on the agenda is the director's reports. Very first thing on the agenda is the city council liaison.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How you all doing?
Good.
Good to see everybody. I was sad to miss the meeting last month. Here.
Are you?
Yes.
Didn't go very late.
I think it's exciting. I also didn't, have to sit through, several hours of meeting time.
But you watched it.
Yes.
On 4 times? Or-
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
But I just appreciate all the work that you all did and all the applicants, all the work that they put in as well. And I'm really excited about that. Additionally, excited about what we have on the agenda tonight with, we'll talk about it plenty. So I'm not going to talk about it too much now, but the percent for arts, very, very excited about that. So, and obviously, if any of you all need anything or have questions or concerns, please reach out to me anytime. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. The next thing on our agenda is the director's report.
Thanks. I don't have a lot for you tonight, but I did want to give you a heads up. We do have a study session scheduled with City Council 2 weeks from Tuesday, so August 26th. We are the second item on the agenda, I believe. So 6:30 start. I would suspect that we would get on about 7:15 or 7:30. But we have 2 items to talk with council about. First will be our recommendations from the board for the grant funding out of the lodgers tax. So we will go through the 4 tiers that we have, that the board came up with last month and the month before. So we're ready to go with those. I think we've got 45 minutes for that. I don't think it will take that long, much like last year. The council has been very receptive to the board's recommendations in each of the first 2 grant cycles. I think that will happen again this year. Second item, as Joel mentioned, will be a conversation with council again about the Percent for Public Art program. We have met with them 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years to talk about this, where it was either the main subject or a partial subject. So I think council is well versed on this subject. They gave us some very good feedback over the last couple of meetings. So the policy that you have in front of you is revised from the policy that the board initially came up with a couple of years ago. But this reflects council's feedback, city manager's feedback. So this is what will be in front of city council when we go to talk to them on the 26th. I did have an error in my email that I sent out to you last week where I said the board had to approve it. You don't have to approve it again. Yes, we just want the board to have the final draft in front of you, since this is the result of our conversations with city council. I think the main thing to think about with this is it is an opportunity for us to talk to council about the percent program, what the plan that the board has come up with, and then look for a green light from them or direction from them, whether come back to them with an ordinance that would enact that. So we have kind of eyed out what first and second readings would look like. The object would be to get it in front of this council, which has already seen this multiple times, rather than to start fresh in November or after the elections. So we will see what council wants to do, but I feel like the board has done really solid work putting this together, and we're prepared to have yet another chat with council about this issue. And the only other item, and then I'll turn to Anna for a second. We had scheduled our communications director, Jessica Bixman, to come in tonight to visit with the board. She had a conflict, was not able to do it this evening, so we have rescheduled communications and marketing for the October meeting. So we have several special guests coming in over the next few months, and Anna's going to go over this schedule with you since it's moved a little bit since the last time we chatted with you.
Sure. Yeah, we have some exciting guests coming up in the next few months, as Tim mentioned. In September, we're going to have the Downtown Development Authority come and speak to us a little bit more about what their purview is and what exactly they do. If anyone, I think there were a couple people here in this room who were able to attend the CAP group meeting on Wednesday. The DDA was here for that event as well and did a really wonderful presentation in conjunction with our economic development department about the economic vitality of Littleton. It's super interesting, and I think would be very beneficial for this board to hear more about it. So they're coming in September. As Tim just mentioned, communications department will be here in October. And you have all seen the, like much beefed up tier 3 summary that Jessica submitted, probably a month or 6 weeks ago. So she'll have the opportunity to go over that more in person and answer any questions that we have for her. And then in November, we have Hudson Gardens coming to speak more about where they're at with their strategic plan. You're looking at me like you're really confused, JD.
No, good.
Hudson Gardens / South Suburban. Be fun times.
We have the economic development also.
Economic development, that's true. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that. They're also scheduled to come in October, along with patients. Catch things.
Dennis is not here tonight, so we are without a library report. You can send him emails and complaints.
What concert is happening at the library?
I
tonight?
heard that, I don't know.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
It's a
Okay,
Western
I thought that-
Welcome Week something, I
Oh,
assume.
okay.
Oh,
I thought the
yeah.
concert happened at the museum. So I was
Yeah,
really-
the library does a Western Welcome concert.
Gotcha.
every year. Yeah.
Okay.
Next up is public comment. I don't see anyone here to comment publicly, so we're gonna go ahead and move past that. And that takes us to old business, and I believe back to Anna for an update on the lodger's tax revenue.
Well, I guess it's not news for anyone that the revenue has been declining, not just recently, but really long-term over the last 3 years. We figured, as you all know, that it's about $100,000 down every year. But having led with that really dismal information, we also have a little nugget of hope, and that numbers were up in June. We don't have any numbers since then to share with you. We don't have them in yet. But I think in general, it sort of follows expectations that there's a little rise during the summer months when tourism amps up a bit. So that's good news. But you will see in front of you that you have revised, well, this is just the executive summary of your recommendations for all 4 tiers. I think the main thing that you'll notice here is that there was an additional $22,000 added for off-cycle requests in tier 4. We decided that that was where we would build an additional buffer in case we have to continue to take down our tier 2 numbers. If not, like, I don't think this is likely necessarily, but if numbers decline this next month, it might be necessary that we'd have to revise them again, but
It gives us a little bit of a buffer.
Yeah.
A little bit of a buffer. Great news is we don't have to do any cuts, which we last couple of years we had to do in August. So Anna's right. It actually is the trend line too for the July numbers are looking up as well. So we're optimistic, cautiously optimistic that we won't have to do anything more, but this tucking a little bit into your focus gives us a bit of a buffer so that we don't have to go back to court and ask for more decisions.
We actually didn't connect about this when we met earlier in the week, but I suppose this would be our opportunity to make any like last minute adjustments. I mean, this is sort of the last time you'll be able to do that as a board before this goes to council, right? Or-
Actually, it's probably too late to do that because the packet has already gone.
Oh, it's already gone out, of course. Yeah. So this is really just more informational.
Yeah, I mean, it is good news though. Like I said, the last 2 Augusts, we've had to come back and present the board with additional, we call them adjustments. They were cuts down in some of the different tiers. So this is certainly better and just gives us a little bit of flexibility. Hopefully it will continue the trend at the very least to stay status quo, but it gives us a little bit of flexibility in case we have to do anything. And if we get into 26 without having to do that, then we have a little bit of funding that we can use for those off-cycle requests that JD has hoped to have for the last couple of years.
John Williams, I'm holding out. There you go.
We'll also include in the packet for council, we'll have that information, all those referrals that we made out for the stadium grant and for the partnership. So none of that has changed since our July meeting. but it was over 50% that we did refer out, just so you know. Recall.
So any questions about the July numbers, stuffing it under the tier 4 mattress until we know how the year ends? The presentation to council, what that may or may not entail, and then what council can or cannot do with it moving forward.
I just have a question about next year. So knowing that 50% of what we got referred out, and we don't expect, should we not expect either of those two things, the community partnerships or the,
Local partnership will still be available.
Okay.
The stadium grant funds will all be.
that for sure? Cause I thought we heard like several times last year,
We
stadium.
thought, in fact, I thought up until June that they had used up all the money, but they had $105,000 left from last year that did not get allocated, but their intention is to close that line item this year. So with the ones that we referred to them, plus others that had come in separate from the Arts and Culture Board, they feel certain that they're recommending all of that money be dispersed this year.
Are we going to have like another kind of postmortem about like what, if we're changing any of the,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, right now we've got it on the schedule for November.
okay.
Board.
Is that something you're gonna talk to city council about? Like, we're in this situation where this is how much money.
Yeah, that's a great question, Keith. That's part of the presentation for next, in 2 weeks. We have a slide that specifically looks at the decline, the revenue projections versus actual revenue that's come in each of those 3 years. We got a couple of great bar graphs that Becky built that really show that gap between in each of those years, and that gap. It's not really getting bigger, but it's staying the same each year, and it's going down each of those 3 years. So it is something we really need to talk about. I do think there's some strategies that are starting to be put in place that may be helping this year and could help next year. I mean, it is a long-term probably problem that we need to look at with the hotels about that. One of the things that our economic development department is asking for, and they'll probably talk about this when they're here in October. And they're looking at doing a hotel feasibility study in 2026. So they've got a budget request in for that in 2026. And I know part of that is at the behest of the DDA, which would like to see another hotel, maybe down in the downtown, kind of that halo area that they talk about, which is the historic downtown extended. But they also want to talk to the existing hotels, particularly the ones on County Line, to see what the disconnect has been between where their occupancy rates were prior to the lodger's tax being enacted and then since then. Because it isn't price that they're very much right in the competitive market area. So there's something we can learn, I think, from the hotels.
Let me expand on that answer. We are not intending to address with council future policy as it relates to the lodging tax at this study session. This is really just about what we're offering. In every past year that we've presented this information to council, they have hinted or asked questions that might give us insight or some informal direction as to what they might like to see, which we will then bring back to this body, discuss it in November, reform our policy, and then that actually goes to council, or at least to the city manager's office, depending on how drastically it may change. If we keep it the same, it will likely not go back to council. But if we provide any significant changes, that would be a recommendation to council and it would go back to them. So no, we're not planning on discussing changes to the policy at this study session. We are highlighting that the revenue and the projections continue to drop. They can certainly see that we are bringing to them with this 45% of the asks and continue to pass the buck to them with the stadium funds and the community funding.
That's what I'm worried about is I just want them to know that like 50% of people asking for money, we passed on and we won't have that next year.
It is not lost on them.
They know that.
Just different question. Do we know how much money out of that total came from short-term rentals, not hotels?
We don't, but that's a really good question. It's one that we're gonna be querying the finance department about, because that it all kind of gets mixed together, but I think that's an interesting question, and particularly, you know, there are certainly different opinions on council as to how aggressively the city should be pursuing short-term rentals, but they are in the ballot language for the lodger's tax. They're included as supposed to be remitting the lodger's tax from any of their short-term rentals. So it's a good question, and we don't have an answer at this point.
And that's like Airbnb.
Correct, yeah, VRBO or anything like that.
You know, it's really interesting, just for some context. I had this event last week where we had over 200 people at ACC for this Art Makers event. And they were coming from Iowa and Wisconsin, and they were coming from out of state, and some of them were coming from north, like Boulder or whatever. And they were saying that none of them stayed in the hotels in Littleton. Some of them stayed in Airbnbs, and they were staying outside of Littleton because they didn't feel like Littleton had good hotels for them to stay in. Which I thought was
County
like,
line
oh my
hotels
God.
Are
Huh?
sad. The county line hotels are sad. Like there's nothing there.
Yeah, they
You're
didn't
just
stay in Littleton.
on
The only ones who
highway.
stayed in Littleton were the ones who stayed in Airbnbs, and that was it.
I will say there are like some stopgap measures in place that communications department is currently working on so that they can put more beds and heads in Littleton hotels, like incentives for people for, especially during like big community-wide events, like Western Welcome Week or like the ACC, you know, like Affordable Art Market or like other, you know, ones that bring in hundreds of people into town. They're working hard on putting some of those incentives in place so people will know about those hotels and stay in them. So there's definitely more work we can do on that front, and also with grant recipients who are receiving lodger's tax money to have events, you know, it's sort of a full circle thing.
Right, it
So-
is.
Yeah.
It really is.
But I think to Keely's point, there has to be communication that, because I just looked for a friend to stay there and I looked at the reviews and I looked at the rooms and they're pretty run down. And so do I want to refer my friend to stay there or?
You referred me to stay
She said friend.
there. I know.
It's a colleague.
Councilmember, I don't know if you care to jump in. My understanding of council has not been to lean in heavily to the enforcement or collection of sales tax from short-term rentals. And I don't think there's been any conversation since you joined council.
Folks are talking about it, but not in, in the council sessions, it's something we're aware of. I also I do think that there's at least a little bit of tension, between the need for housing, and affordable, attainable housing for folks and a desire to not let short-term rental markets gobble up what we have. So I think that's probably a little bit of where that conversation probably goes. For what it's worth. And this is also just me talking. So.
And I also, we have certainly heard anecdotally, I don't know that we have anything empirical to back this up, but we've heard anecdotally that part of the issue with the events, like what you're talking about in the downtown area is the distance from the county line hotels
Yeah.
too. So I think that's a piece of it as
Right.
well. There's nothing that's super close, and unless you've got your rental car and really know the area, it's a little hard. So we don't have much in the way of. Yes, we have the Essex House.
That's what I was gonna say.
Or would, there's that other one on like the Timberline or something? Is that a hotel?
I mean, Kate's been
Yeah.
saying a boutique hotel ever since I started being on this
I agree with Kate.
committee. Now I understand.
Yeah, and again, those hotels are privately owned. How much influence do we really have as a public entity? And I mean, all of those questions come into play. But I think that there's a lot of different avenues that need to be addressed. And I don't know that it's our responsibility as a board to address all of them.
I think it's, sorry.
No, I think Kate is right. I think there are some lanes where I think it's really appropriate for the Arts and Culture Board to kind of lean in, and there's some of the areas that really are more economic development, or there are other departments, other areas that probably are more equipped to do that.
If there are, and I saw your hand, so, 1 second. If there are questions about hotels that you would like economic development to come to October with answers to, forward them to Anna. And we will, collate them and then bring as many answers as possible. So
with the understanding that they may not have
Right,
answers right
yeah.
now, because part of that, I think, would be that hotel feasibility study.
Yes.
Get that approved.
But I think if they, as much information as they can come with, they will. Noah?
So I'm confused. So somebody from economic development came in last year and they talked about how they had a funding request last year to do a boutique study for hotels. Is that the same thing? I thought they were supposed to start in 25.
No, they were looking at still doing this year and into next year, an economic impact study of tourism and market, which would include the hotel piece of it, but also have a lot of other areas that they would be looking at. This one would be aimed specifically at just looking at the hotels that we have in existence, and then the potential for a hotel more in a downtown adjacent area. So this would be a lot more focused in on just on lodging.
So then, like to your email, economic development and communications is gonna come in in October?
Yeah, I think they're both in October, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Separate topics.
Okay,
We'll
but the same time, okay.
we'll have them blocked off into separate areas, but there may be some things that Jessica and Rachel want to tag team on as well.
Okay.
I think then we'll move on to our new business, which starts with the percent for public art program review. And then review the percent for public art policy.
Yeah, and Anna has a PowerPoint.
Amongst yourselves, please.
She does that. And speaking of asking questions in October, the LDDA also has on their website a master plan. If you have the time or interest in perusing that prior to them coming in September, there is a robust arts program. And the downside of it is it's not funded. And so to know what their ambitions are is helpful coming in, and it may lead to more context and a more robust conversation.
Didn't they apply for the lodging tax?
They
Did
did.
they give them money? Yes, we did. And that was for the public. Partially. for the public.
I believe they wanted to do a temporary or rotating
Yeah.
program.
The board is recommending 13,000 for.
This might be an odd question for you, Tip, but maybe you know. If the short-term rental, is there a publicly available map of who has what properties are registered
Oh,
in the city limits?
that's
There's like, I can't tell.
a great question. I don't know the answer to that, but I'll check with economic development to see if they.
Or I can add to the questions on.
You could possibly just pull it from the websites of the services, right?
That's what I was like getting, that's what I was going to get to is like, there's like 4 or 5 of them within a city block of my house. And I'm just curious because you have to basically apply to the E-Trackit system, near as I can tell. So it's a little bit of an opt-in honor policy versus like
Yes.
anything that's tracked. And I was like, I guaranteed there's programs out there that will either go and audit and say, these are all the properties that are posting on all the different websites. And then, you know,
Yeah,
so it
you're-
depends on how aggressive city council wants to get, but I would say, to your original point, I'd venture to say that honor policy may or may not be working.
I think you are very accurate in that.
As a prosecutor, I don't know about other policies.
No, I'll check and see if they've got a map.
I've looked just because, I'm just a little bit familiar with like this, what appears to be the policy. And I haven't seen anything, cause I'm just curious, cause like I said, it's a revolving door, like in all the ones that are around by my house, like they have no problems, keeping it filled, so.
And there's one across the street from me that's full for half the year.
Oh, is that right?
Well, and that's a whole other animal, because technically if you, and this is where I think people probably game the system, is if you're over 29 days, you don't have to have a short-term rental.
Oh, well, they live there half time and then the other half the time they rent it out for short-term rentals. So it's not,
I just think somebody goes, well, I rent my place for more than 29 days a year, so I'm not even gonna, I think because of just maybe ignorance or, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I
no
don't think it's
clarity.
super well publicized. I know it's not super well publicized. I mean, So yeah, I think that's a piece of it. And I think, yeah, I think it is largely on the honor system at this point. It's, you self-report. But I'll try to see what they may have something that's more internal than is. I don't even know what the numbers are for.
Yeah, to your-
middle school,
yeah,
I mean,
it's all mixed
within our city
together.
limits.
I think there's opportunity
Yeah,
to
That's right.
collect more revenue. Now, I don't know how much it would cost to collect all that as far as other resources, but yes. Now, your show,
Yeah,
the floor is
Well,
yours.
it's, I think, a joint show, right? That's the.
Sure.
bring your name.
But yes, particularly since we do have a few new members, we thought we'd take this opportunity just to sort of do an overview again of what Percent for Public Art is. And dive a little bit more into the policy, which you all have had in your hands for a while now, but it is a fairly complicated topic and we just want to make sure that we all are well educated on what it actually means. So this is a little bit, this is kind of a beefed up version of the presentation that we'll be doing at the study session on August 26th. So we know what public art is. I don't need to tell you this, but it is, takes a, variety of forms. It can be interactive sculpture, it can be digital, it can be memorials, it can be integrated into the architecture, it can take all sorts of forms. Things like our famous Big Blue Bear downtown at the convention center. Some people even consider like festivals and performances to be a type of public art. Our mural program is a particularly robust form, I think, right now in Littleton, and that's growing every year. The reason it's important, again, which is not anything that I think I need to tell anyone here, but that it's a big part of like our sense of identity as a community. It plays a huge part in our placemaking. And the pride of place that I know a lot of people, residents, staff here at the City of Littleton, like everyone who lives and works in Littleton feels, and our public art is a big part of that. And then, of course, there's the economic impact of it too. Our public art, as we know, is, it brings people in to shop, to dine, to stay. And I think it's an essential part of what makes community special. Certainly in Littleton, it does. I think this is sort of an interesting statistic here, that these Percent for Public Art programs are in many, many cities nationwide. There's more than 350 across the country currently. And that they've been around for quite some time, since 1959, in fact. And there's a lot of variations, I would say, on the Percent program. Even in the state of Colorado, we have the majority of municipalities that are the size of Littleton or bigger do actually have some kind of Percent program, though they do differ a little from city to city, for sure. We have had some sort of public art in Littleton for many decades. Starting with the creation of the Fine Arts Commission, which then turned into the Fine Arts Board. That was back in 1964. Of course, this body, once it was a commission at one point, founded in 2019.
Sure.
And then, of course, our beloved lodger's tax in 2022. So it's evolved a lot over time to kind of reflect the changing needs, I think, of the community. But I think for many decades, at least, it's been a priority, certainly. And then this lovely bar graph. As you can see, there's been a downward trend. This is sort of the investment in public art in Littleton for the last 20 years. There have been some sort of like one-time flushes of cash here and there, as you can see, starting in like 2004, 2015, but in general, there hasn't been more than $10,000 per year spent on public art in Littleton for many years. And that would not even purchase a very small like desktop bronze.
And those last 3 years are all part of tier 4. So every year before that was general fund.
Correct. Those are
Funded by
essentially the
city
mural-
council.
mural program.
Yep, and the last 3 are the mural program funded by the Lodgers tax.
Does the is the mural program in these numbers, like the funding for the mural program in these numbers?
It's funny because this bar graph has been updated.
Okay.
So the one that we'll present to council in 2 weeks does have, the 20,000 for last year and this year are included.
Okay.
But I didn't update it in this one. But I think it's an important distinction to make. Like, we have to remember that the mural program is part of our public art program. And that's a good reminder for ourselves and for council.
What was that in 2004?
Yeah, what happened?
So that's a great question, Joel, and I keep forgetting to
Probably a
ask
donut.
Jenny, who is our local keeper of all of our fine arts records. We know that we had the big signature art piece here in the entranceway here at the museum. That was the year we were building the new museum building. And that piece, I think, was around 45,000. Obviously a one-time type of expense that came out of the construction budget. Jenny, do you remember off the top of your head? I know it's putting you
I
on
think
the
it's
spot.
also, some funds were, put like a down payment towards the, sunflowers out here as well. So that was another one that was a chunk of money that was gone, that went towards that. And I think there was one other small sculpture too, but I don't remember off. the
It
top
was
of my head.
multiple projects. Yeah, I just can't remember.
If you give me a couple seconds.
It is kind of striking though.
I meant to
Yeah.
ask you that.
Really-
but Jenny, I apologize for
No, it's
putting you on
quite
the
all
spot.
right.
Yeah, we will definitely get that, Joel. That's a real
I'd also be curious
outlier.
about like the 10 years prior to like 1994 to 2004.
Yeah,
If that was just like a random spike because museum construction and.
Through the 10 years prior to 2004,
Yeah.
it was up and down, but it was much higher than what
Okay.
our average is
Yeah.
right now. 'Cause we did go back and look at that prior to the 2022 study session we do with council. And off the top of my head, I think it was somewhere in the $40,000 range almost every year. We did have a couple, as you had an economic downturn in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I think that one, we were still around $10,000 that was in the general fund. This would have all been in the general fund at that point.
Worth noting that $10,000 in the 90s is not the same as $10,000.
That is very true.
Also not.
And on that point, Joel, like a good example that we have liked to continue to go back to is, the Coming Home sculpture, the big bronze one of the people on horseback was commissioned in the late 80s for Jenny, I think it was 58,000.
Yeah.
That was in the late 80s. And with, today's dollar, that would be anywhere from like 75 to 250% more than that cost then.
So I'm finding an email from Tim to this board back in 2022, because I don't delete anything.
She doesn't. This is our collection.
I'm the only one at the city who probably gets away with that. For example, in 2001, the Fine Arts Board paid $7,000 for Circle of Friends, the bronze that's outside of the library. In 2010 and 2011, Cobbler's Path and Slinky the Caterpillar, two similarly sized bronzes. This is specifically apparently about bronzes, cost $17,500 and $20,000 respectively. So, and then in here it says that's a 250 to 285% increase from 2001 to 2011. So that's at least the cost of what everything cost. So
And for those of you who aren't familiar with those specific pieces, we chose those because they are relatively the same size and scale. So you could, it isn't exactly apples to apples, but it's a closer comparison we can come up with some of the bigger ones.
yeah, so Skip to My Lou, which is the kinetic metal one that's in the park on the other side of the street up.
Olive Gardens.
Yeah, and Gallup Gardens, thank you, Tim, is that was $20,000 in 2003. Cobbler's Path, 2010, and then Slinky, the caterpillar that I mentioned. So, yeah, let me keep looking.
But there hasn't been any significant investment in a major piece of public art for 15 years.
Yeah, and then there's also
Yeah.
COVID too, so.
Right, of course.
I don't, if I'm remembering correctly, I don't think we have acquired a major piece of outdoor public art since 2011 and indoor since I think 2017, if I remember
That's
from
right.
our conversation the last time we did a study session.
Yeah.
I think that the hope is that this is a important reminder that for whatever reasons and circumstances, as a city, there are opportunities to invest more and to reach back to what we used to do. We're also hoping to have comparison numbers for Inglewood and a
I
couple
was
other
just gonna say,
cities.
I'd like to see
to
cities.
share,
Demographic. Yeah.
Should council want to take us down that path. But, yeah, it's a telling graph.
I think Golden is like.
Well,
Loveland.
Golden has like a
Sure.
massive amount of statues.
Well, I
But they're
know.
all over. They're like every 10 feet.
So I'm
there's
saying
a-
like compare what
But
they,
that must be
their,
courts,
what
right?
they
Like-
invest in public art for the similar demographic to what we don't invest.
But don't you think Coors donates like all of that? I
No.
mean, there's so much in Golden.
Most of that comes out of their the percent program that Golden has. They have one also and have one for a while. Some of those those older bronze sculptures you're talking about, particularly down on their kind of their Main Street area, those came with a combination of city funds. Most of those were prior to their percent program, but they came with a kind of a combination of city funds and private donations. Kind of like a fundraising type of matching campaign. I'm sure Coors put some money into some of those, but it wasn't like they were writing a check for the whole thing. It was definitely sort of more of a matching funds type of thing.
I don't want to say there's a direct causation, but 2011 is when Denise and I joined the Fine Arts Board. Yeah, and then.
I was.
What,
enemies took money away?
2019, I've been on this, but I just don't want to accept any responsibility.
I think it might all be.
Back to 2011 and the Slinky sculpture that's in Stern Park. Everybody that has been to Stern Park is very familiar with it, but it was a big community outreach program as well. The artist had not named Slinky yet and agreed with the board. We wanted to do a naming and he said, this would be amazing. Let's do this. So I can't remember how many, hundreds of, and it was a child-driven nomination. Nominations we got from kids in the city. And then they showed up when we dedicated the sculpture. There were all these kids with cupcakes, but they were like, oh, I wanted to name it this. I wanted to name it this. And it was this great community moment. And I think that there's more to the story that is important. When we acquire art, it is, the art is great. We have it for a long time, but I think that there's other community building pieces that are behind the artwork as well, and we've missed that over the last several years.
Let's go ahead and keep going.
Sorry.
No, you're good. That's a great place to end it.
Okay, so we've reached the point in the presentation where we do sort of an overview of some of the policy here. Tim, do you want to take over some of this part or?
Sure.
Since you were the one who wrote it?
Did I? Yeah, so this does kind of pick up where the board has been for the last several years working with council and the city manager's office. But as we are directed by city council, the Arts and Culture Board does manage the implementation of the percent of public art program as the policy is written. And then we would work in collaboration with other city departments, and that's mostly going to be the Public Works Department, since we're looking at with this iteration of the policy, it is just on the public side, so it would just be City of Littleton projects. And that actually is a really good way to get our feet into that. We talked a little bit with the board and with the council about just the complexities involved when you go on to the private side of things. On the public side, it is pretty cut and dried. It's a 1% surcharge is what we're calling it. It is very similar to the fee in lieu that you see on the private side. But it's essentially 1% of a construction project that the city does over $500,000. It generally will exclude things like maintenance and repair, temporary installations or repairs or maintenance, things like pavement management. So every kind of like a snow and overlay is not gonna count towards this. Fleet replacement is a big capital outlay. It would not count towards this. So it's major building projects. So that could be public facility. It could be a major street intersection or something like that. But the city doesn't do a ton of them, but they do enough of those that are over $500,000 that it would be a good stream of income for the public art. But that would require us working really hand in hand with the Public Works Department, with the City Attorney's Department, the Attorney's Office, to make sure that we are being, we're cognizant of what projects fall within that, the way the policy is written, if there is any disagreement over whether or not one is in or one is out, the city manager would make a determination and make that recommendation. So it's a great opportunity to work with other city departments, really good opportunity for us to kind of flesh out these processes on the public side. On the private side, for a percent public art program, every single project that would cross that threshold, that $500,000 threshold, is an individual negotiation. So you're working with the developers in each instance. It is rarely cut and dry that it's 1%. That's sort of your starting point for negotiation. It usually, fee in lieu processes, which essentially is just a fee is paid to the city in lieu of integrating artwork into a construction project. So it might be a project that wasn't really conducive to artwork, or it might be a location that wasn't great, wasn't available to the public. So the developer, rather than do an integrated piece into their construction, would give the city an X number of dollars. And you usually start at 1%. I have seen that negotiated down into various increments. 0.5% is not unusual, 0.75 is not unusual. 1% happens sometimes too. You also have a negotiation on every single one of these projects about what counts as public art. So one of the things that we have seen frequently in these programs is they will say, well, we'll be building a set of stairs up into our building, and we're gonna put what we consider to be artistic handrails on. Well, you have to have handrails. So art is in the eye of the beholder. I rarely see a handrail that I would classify as public art. But you will have those back and forth with developers through each one of these. So it's a major lift for staff to have the capacity to do those type of things too. And it also is not a great time to be, fine tuning and refining your program. So our recommendation to council is, and the city manager concurs with this, is that we start, if council gives us the green light, we would start with a public facing public art for a percent program, which would give us plenty of time to kind of refine those processes, work through them, figure out what works and what doesn't. Certainly it's possible council may never want to go to the private side, but if they do, we'd like to have a little runway to prep for that.
I would add to that too, that we're not talking like astronomical sums of money in a normal year too. We did a little bit of projecting out with the numbers and calculated, Tim did, that it would be in a normal year, something around 27,000 a year. But the good part is that it can be cumulative and it doesn't have to be spent in that year. And then, of course, in the years when there are really big public works projects, then of course that revenue would be a lot higher.
Yeah.
And we have some of those coming down the pipeline.
We do potentially. I mean, you look at Project Downtown, that would certainly be a big percent revenue generator. But Anna's exactly right. We calculated the public projects over $500,000 in 2021, so 4-year period. Total for those 4 years was about $115,000. So 26, 27,000 a year. That's probably a relatively normal year. Our public works director does think that will get a little bit higher because they're really starting to kind of look into some of the VA construction projects. So there would be more that would potentially qualify, but there are also going to be pieces that are going to be on the exclusion list as well. So again, it's a good opportunity for us to work with those other departments and really make sure that we have a finely running program once we have a process once we get up to speed.
And
So-
this board would be really involved with, similar to the lodgers tax, with fine tuning the policy for that if it went fast.
So for the exclusions that you were referencing as concepts, so repaving Windermere versus like, would the Euclid Avenue project would that be on the exclusion list?
I think where you'd see the difference,
like-
particularly on street projects, would be a rebuild would probably qualify.
Okay.
Repair, overlay, that sort of thing
Okay.
would probably not qualify. So I don't remember exactly where Euclid falls in that.
It was probably a rebuild,
If it's a rebuild, the public works director, that probably would qualify.
because they made it like a complete street supposedly. I have to look at it.
Okay, I know the one you're talking about. I just don't remember the details.
I experience it every morning.
We got a little ahead of ourselves.
Say again, Katie.
It's just for the buses so they can. get in
Oh.
and out.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Well, there was supposed to be a 12-foot multi-use use path on the side of Euclid Avenue too. Was in the vision, but
Maybe not yet.
when I went to the open house, that's what they told me.
Oh, yeah, Anna's right. I did jump way ahead of her slide. Sorry about that.
No
Yeah, but
question.
yeah, so these are the thresholds that we're talking about, is that $500,000 piece. JD asked a great question yesterday when we had the leadership meeting that we had. Would this impact the city's safe streets or safer streets process? We think probably it would not, because most of those are gonna be small enough projects that they wouldn't cross that $500,000 threshold. Or they would could fall under the maintenance and repair type of thing. So we don't think that this would be any kind of impediment to those. So I don't think any of them would qualify. But I do think if you're rebuilding the intersection at Broadway and Littleton Boulevard, that's gonna qualify under it would not be excluded from the public art in terms of the percent program.
And it's project by project. So Safer Streets is a $1 million initiative.
Right.
Made up of many small projects.
Well, I guess we could even write the policy to exclude safer street projects in the event that there is, like if we wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, council can give us direction to, I would lean towards including bubble gum if the city were purchasing it. But yes, council
Listen, I
can,
want bike lanes and public art, so we have to find a balance.
I think what we would do, if council gives us the green light on the 26th to come back with an ordinance, then we would really have a much more deep conversation with the city attorney about what we want to build into the policy and what we would want in more of an addendum to the policy, so that you're not locking yourself in on the policy side of things. You're giving yourself some flexibility for negotiations with the other departments. But I mean, if council simply says, we're finally going ahead with the percent public art program, but we want you to exclude safer streets, we would exclude safer streets. That would be our direction from city council, and then you get both of your wishes.
I think you can anticipate a lot of gray area in this,
Gotcha.
especially like, if we do eventually begin implementing it, each project would be pretty unique and probably would require a lot of communication across all departments, like with city attorney's office and public works, of course. So, yeah, each one will be.
Yeah.
And I think the interesting thing, I may be jumping ahead of Anna's next slide,
Let's see
but I
what
think
it
the
is.
interesting thing about.
Here we go.
Well, I'm even gonna jump past this one too, but I think, 'cause I do want to just, and I talked about this in the email, and I'm sure you've seen it in the policy doc itself. But one of the things I think is really unique about this is the approach to this percent program is not a traditional percent program, which almost exclusively leans on integration of public art into each construction project. And then your fallback is your surcharge or your fee in lieu. In this instance, what we're saying, because we know we have really limited funds for public art acquisition throughout the city, and we also know we have some public art deserts in Littleton. And this was really a suggestion from the city manager. Let's make that 1% surcharge piece the primary funding source. So in most instances, what you would see is that 1% would go into this fund that the board would accumulate. It would not be one that has to be expended every year. It would accumulate over the years, so you could build up a balance. Again, if you're talking about 25,000 a year, it's going to take you a little while to get to the point where you can do a major art installation. But it gives you that source of funding. And it allows the board a ton more flexibility than they would have if you're working with Public Works to integrate, a piece into like a Bellevue Service Center or a facility that they're redoing, or a specific intersection. The board would have, now if they integrate artwork into what they're doing, that cost of that would come off their 1% total, but they would still be paying into the surcharge. It just really gives the Arts and Culture Board a lot more autonomy over how they can acquire, administer, and install public art throughout the community. So I think it's a really, we're calling it the Littleton twist. It's not exactly that. There are other places that do some of these things, but we think council will like that. Joel is not. He's not nodding yet. So.
They would love that.
Well, I'm just wondering, and do you mind if I ask a question? Under the public art sites section in here, it expresses that this policy would encourage site-specific art. Or something like the, our service center. It's not like necessarily, I would love it for our city staff to
Sure.
be able to encounter art in their daily work, but it's not necessarily like a place where, the general public is gonna go walk around and hang out, and probably they shouldn't.
Right.
So what doesn't, this is the lawyer in me, this is probably important, but what does encourage mean? And are there specific opt-out or like methods to choose other locations?
We would encourage in any project that there be some public art, and in this case, it's probably going to be more, since you're talking about more of a private facing bill or a non-public facing building. It's probably something on the interior that would just be aesthetically interesting for the facility itself, but wouldn't take up the full 1% of that. So you
Rest would go into
encourage it to be
funding.
something to be integrated into any of the buildings so that they're not, sterile 1970s Soviet style architecture. But you wouldn't anticipate that would, the brutalist is.
Yeah.
People who love the brutalists, so.
Come to ACC.
Katie's right. But yeah, that would, the idea would be to have some level of incorporation in any public facility, just so that it's not so sterile.
Yeah.
But primarily you'd be looking at funding that surcharge fund.
That makes sense.
And we maybe need to be more explicit in that too.
I don't know if you do, it's just like,
No, that's a good catch.
what's the definition of is, that kind of a thing.
And I think in this case, site specific really is meaning more like unique to wherever the place that the art is installed, like whatever the natural characteristics of that space are.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it doesn't
I-
necessarily mean specific to the project that's funding the.
okay, that's really helpful, thank you.
Let's keep going.
Sorry to derail it.
No, not at all. So the other piece of this is we're looking at each of these funding mechanisms post-project during reconciliation. So you wouldn't have to go through this piece of it while you're going through the project. You would wait until you get to the end. You would see what your actual costs were that were expended, and that 1% would be based on actual costs rather than just your budget estimates that you have going into the process. Again, allocated funds, this is nothing surprising here. This is the same as it's always been: acquisition, installation, and maintenance of public art. The maintenance piece of you, for those of you who are veteran members, you will remember that we had a conversation early in the lifespan of the board, talking about 1% for acquisition, and we talked about 0.25 or 0.5% just for conservation, maintenance, upkeep, and that sort of thing. That's not a standard thing that you see in percent programs. So as we looked through a lot of our competitors here in the metro area, and then just took the temperature of council and the city manager's office, there wasn't a lot of appetite for plugging that piece of it into. So what we look at doing for conservation in particular, conservation maintenance, upkeep in particular, is we have a line item in the museum's budget and our general fund budget that we can use for those sort of things. We would look at bumping that up so that we can take care of that. It would be our staff or our consultants that Jenny knows that would be working on those things anyway. So we would work with the general fund for that piece of it. And then we also put in, because you always have to put this proviso in for something like this. You do need to be able to account for the cost of running these programs. So in this case, kind of standard the council has landed on is about 15% of fund balance that could be used for that. Wouldn't necessarily have to be that much, but this will be a chunk of Anna's time as public art administrator that will go towards administering this program. Right now, her position is funded out of the lodger's tax. That would continue. We could end up balancing that with percent public art program as well, because this, as you can probably guess, from start green light from council to start up of the program and then running through it, there is a lot that's going to be required for staff to be able to get that going. So this simply acknowledges the reality of what it costs to run this. So the last piece of this is also not going to be a surprise. You'll maybe recall from the earlier iteration of the policy, we had because we were looking both at public and private, we were looking at a lot more of involved selection process, as you're looking at each individual site for one of these installations. Since we're looking more to surcharge, building that fund to be able to do different art projects in different places, what we have reverted to is the process that the public, or that the Fine Arts Committee has used for years for acquiring public art. So Public Art Subcommittee, which now has taken the place of the Fine Arts Board and serves as a subcommittee under the Arts and Culture Board, would be the primary selection panel. And so they would go through their processes of soliciting RFPs or RFQs for artists for different installations. They would set their budget, look at working through the contract. We come back to the board with their recommendations for an art installation in a specific location. Board would give that their approval, and then the contract itself, as it always has, would go to city council for their approval. So Kate knows this real well, Denise knows this real well. These are the processes that I think Fine Arts Board fine-tuned over 40 or so years, and we would go back to using the guidelines handbook that, Denise, I think you were still on the Fine Arts Board when they did that, and Kate, I can't remember, were you still on there too? Yeah, so it's a great document. It gives us a roadmap of how to go through all these processes. We'll get everyone a copy of that if council gives us the go-ahead to move forward with this. But it's a tried and true method. It has worked really, really well over the years. And I think that again, it's another opportunity for us to not reinvent the wheel. We're using a process that we know. Jenny was liaison for the Fine Arts Board for years, so she's really familiar with it. So it's one that we know can work and work well. And council has always been very supportive of that process.
This is just kind of more of the same. I don't
Yeah,
think we need to
this is
spend
just
too much time on
filling
this
in those
slide,
blanks.
but yeah. Point is that we've built in a lot of flexibility in the policy language to. Voila.
So I think here's the takeaway for those that have been here a long time and for those that are new. This has been a bit of a roller coaster since we started talking about it almost as soon as early as the commission was formed in 2019. It was one of the first things out of our gate in addition to the lodger's tax
And COVID.
and COVID. We socialized it with council, and then in October of 2022, we brought it forward to council as the public and private. At that time, Aspen Grove was the hot topic in Littleton, and the developers were very quick to point out that Littleton didn't have the friendliest atmosphere. So at that time, the private element of this was quickly shut down, and council asked us to back off for a little while and let things cool down. We've done that. And then it's certainly been a priority for me to bring it back now to this council before November, because the majority of them were involved in some capacity back in 2022. They're familiar with those conversations. We've brought it back as just the public side, which I think is good. We brought it back at 1% instead of 1.5%, which is where we had it, which is good. All that said, Denise and I are as prepared as possible for this to go in any direction. It's difficult at this point to count noses. And we believe that there are still interested parties on council that want the private side included. Tim went into some depth as to what our answer to that will be, which is we want it to, but we want some time to work out the kinks on the easier part of it.
Proving ground.
Yes, before we jump in. I think that there is a very real possibility that they may say, let's not do the percent for art at all. Let's just fund it out of general fund. I think our answer to that will be, let's do both. Let's institute the policy, if for no other reason, because it's a statement of our ideals and principles as a city, that this is something we are invested in the long haul and that we believe in. If council wishes to throw additional funds at us, I think that would be wonderful, and I will invite it. The truth is that you can blow through $7,000, $10,000, $15,000 on maintenance every year, easy, as well as the administration costs. And if we're truly wanting to invest in projects, this alone likely will not get it done. It's also, and this is just for all of you, any decent project like Project Downtown is gonna easily spend 1% of their budget on public art anyways. So while that will be a $30 to $40 million project, the chances of any of it actually coming back in the fee in lieu is probably pretty small, and it probably should be. Because a really good design project like that is easily gonna spend 1% on public art anyways. So there is a need for this. There's also a need for additional investment. And hopefully we will be able to just continue down the path. And I think whether it's in my tenure on this body or not, my hope is that yes, in 3 or 4 years, the Arts and Culture Board comes back with the private side of this, irregardless of the direction we get next week. So Denise,
No, I think you wrapped that up with a nice little bow.
it's also, I don't think we mentioned this earlier. Please come next Tuesday night. I think at the table, it's gonna be Denise and I and Anna, and I don't know if Tim's gonna join us up there or not.
Not next Tuesday.
Next,
Tuesday,
sorry, the 26th. But you are of course welcome to be there and encouraged to be there if you are so inclined. I think it's wonderful to show the support and have.
Have the solidarity and just
Yes.
show them this is something that we do support and we're behind this and we're here to support each other.
We wear our badges.
And your hat.
You said it starts.
I know you guys-
You guys didn't get a hat?
I love that.
Number 2 on the agenda, so and the first item has 45 minutes on the schedule, so I think 7:15. It wouldn't shock me if we're a little bit later than that, but I was like, there early anyway, so I'll be there at 6:30 to stake out. the
Is that when
place.
it starts?
Yeah, sorry, yes, study session starts
Do
at
you know what's
6:30.
on the agenda before
I
us?
think it's Geneva Village.
Not
It
again?
might be.
Well, Joel, I think.
I was
it's
there for the
Village
last
was
Geneva
first.
Village one. I was like a war
It's
zone.
more of
At
a.
city council or the
You,
presentation
isn't it?
of
Yeah.
the,
Yes, it is.
like Northern Gateway presentation?
So any questions about either the presentation or the policy before we wrap this section up?
Will you guys have an opportunity to show the same kind of slides and statistics that Anna showed?
Some of those, not all of them, are
Okay.
in our presentation, yes. The wah slide is definitely part of it.
It's a good visual.
It's pathetic.
It is.
Joel, what are you guys discussing? It's coming, like, what's the big agenda?
I'll pull it up just so that I can tell you for like 100% certain here. So we're talking about, please remind me that date again.
26.
Thank you.
26.
We have the city, it's not the Geneva Village.
Oh, okay.
It's the city facilities condition assessment report.
That sounds.
I have, it is very important.
It's very important.
I think that's gonna be a pretty robust conversation. What I can do too is, make sure that. Well, I don't want people showing up and then having to sit through that when that's not what you're there for. So I'll try to get more details about the specific order of events so that we can share that with everybody.
Okay, thank you.
You can also watch it online and then when it gets close to.
Get in the
ending,
car.
you can, like, scoot on it. I may or may have not done that.
I like how strategic.
For what it's worth, just as an FYI right now, when we get our calendars, it is listed as like an A, B, and C on the agenda. And it shows you this board as A.
Oh,
So
does it? Okay,
it
that
does.
changed, that changed since the last time I saw the calendar. Okay.
I will confirm that though and let you all know.
Okay.
If that's the case, that's at 6:30.
Thanks, Joe. That's different than the last time but I haven't looked at it for the last week, so that's great. They may have decided, since more of the board members may be able to attend, that the second item will be a staff presentation, so that might explain it.
Does everybody know that you can go onto the city website and not only pull off the agendas and the packets of council, but everybody else?
Mhm.
Packets are the Friday before the meetings typically for council. And then there's also a document on there that lists what they're gonna be considering and looking at, and it's a draft document for the next many months. So curious minds can always go and check that out.
The agendas have very helpful links to the specific parts of the packet that they're talking about for that agenda item.
So either way, we're the best part of the night.
I was gonna say, it sounds riveting.
Do you have like a song and dance? like performance plan.
Yes.
Puppet show.
Well, we're
That's even better.
more fun music right
Yeah.
now. So if you have any suggestions.
Any other questions about the policy, the history of the policy, where we're coming from, and hopefully where we're going? Again, best case scenario is the direction we receive, and I'm really not talking to any of you. The best case scenario is that we get direction to immediately bring this back in the next 6 weeks for first and second reading before council. That's what we're hoping for.
That's best case scenario.
Yes. But we're an optimistic group. All right. There's no other,
I handle the pessimism part for you.
if there's no other questions, then the last thing under new business is an appointment to the South Suburban Park Public Art Committee. You may or may not know that South Suburban Parks and Recreation District does have a public art committee that they do very much what we were just talking about as far as selecting and going through the process to choose public art for South Suburban Parks and Recreation facilities and property, which includes Hudson Gardens, all of the parks controlled by that district, all of the rec centers and et cetera. For I don't know how many years and hopefully well into the future, Jenny has been the city's liaison to that board. And done a wonderful job. I sit on that board on behalf of the town of Columbine Valley. The problem is because of my role with Columbine and Jenny's role as a very polite person, we don't have a full-throated, in-your-face representative who can advocate for Littleton at the top of their voice and stomp their feet. And there are many, many of those from Lone Tree, and so.
And just for kicks, what is their budget for art, JD?
It's not robust. They can usually do one piece a year, so 25-ish thousand
Okay.
at most. It varies.
It's not sure.
I mean, they have an $80 million.
Yeah, but Tim has informed me that I can appoint anyone that I so choose, and so again, as
The bylaws.
I've done in the past, I have asked if she would be willing to serve in that role, and she has agreed to do so. It is a fourth Tuesday of the month meeting from 8:30 until 10 a.m. So it is very conducive to people from Lone Tree.
So anyone who
Detective
wants to
trend.
babysit my kids and drop them off at school.
I will
I'll
do
be
that.
calling you.
But I have full confidence in Katie to not only represent the city well, but as an artist to really have a deep understanding and be able to produce fine work on behalf of the entire South Suburban Park and Recreation District.
And full-throated stomping of feet.
And full-throated stomping.
I
of
like
feet.
that, and I like that.
Absolutely.
We've seen that.
I know,
so.
I'd like to see more, yeah.
So, again, if you're not aware of that body, please be aware of it. Now you know, and Katie, to the extent that you're so inclined to bring reports back as appropriate to this group, I think they'd be appreciated. We are waiting, they just sort of kicked off their year, so I think we're still waiting to find out exactly when she'll be onboarded. But we're making the appointment now so that as soon as they are willing to do that, she's ready to go.
I've already warned my children.
I have a question. Did we get a table at Ovations this year or no? I've heard that the city of Littleton has 3 tables.
Oh, the town, I'm sorry. Thinking of something else entirely. We did not do one this year because the city was doing either 2 or 3.
3, yeah. Are there any openings available for anybody off of this board?
I'll find out.
Okay.
And I can speak into that. We, for the last couple of years, the Public Arts, what are we, Board? Arts and Culture Board has purchased a table. And the hard part of that frankly is then ACC does events and the ballet does events and it was getting to be where we were spending all of our money on tables. And so while everyone is certainly encouraged to participate in whatever the fundraiser is, we as a board, since we don't even have a budget for real, needed to step back from that. So that's the reasoning behind it. It wasn't a being mean type of thing. It was a being
And I'm just asking
fair.
because I heard that there's 3 City of Littleton tables. So if there's,
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was 2 or 3, but I know, yeah, they were doing multiple tables this year.
okay,
I mean, JD's right. The board doesn't actually have a budget. It was coming out of the museum budget. We had the money to spare. It wasn't an issue, but as we were talking about, it was a concern that we weren't able to do that for other organizations too, so. just wanna be careful.
Is this the town hall fundraiser you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm really.
There were three tables, so, sorry, if I can just confirm it. So we had one table as a sponsor of the event, City of Littleton, and then there are 2 additional tables. There are 3 tables. Seating won't be assigned for those who, might not want to sit next to one person. I know. It'd be a little boring at dinner. I think that's about it. That's about the information I have.
Last I heard, there were 22 of the 24 seats filled by the city.
by the city, okay.
What's the date on that?
Saturday, the 23rd of August,
5:30 to 9:30.
5:30 to 9:30. And I was gonna do this in roundtable, but ticket sales close tomorrow morning. It is nearly sold out. So if you're interested, tomorrow morning, townhallartcenter.org is the place to go.
I may also have 2 tickets at my table, at my company's table. So if anybody's interested, please let me know. My business partner is slacking at getting a client, so I'm happy to host.
You said 5:30.
Yes, 5:30 to 9:30.
Okay, that is the end of our business. We are now at the roundtable part, so you're always there and I always look at you first. Do you wanna kick us off and we'll go around, anything going on or exciting we should know about?
Western Welcome Week's going on. It's pretty sweet. As everybody knows, I don't have anything else to share, but I'll be at Ovation, so looking forward to it.
You did bid last year on an ovations package, correct?
Mhm.
And you went on a trip, right?
I'm not, so you could have been a part of a great conversation last night. We finally have it all figured out.
Okay.
So we're good. We're rocking and rolling. So we'll be leaving to go to Maui, first
You
week,
got it?
first week in September. Yeah.
Nice.
There was a lot of logistics, between us figuring out when we wanted to go. I had friends that wanted to dovetail into it, and then we had a little bit of a learning experience with the miles side of it, like, so it had a part of it for the tickets and for the flights and stuff. We worked through that, and super awesome. Looking forward.
I do believe there's a couple, at least one, if not several trips available, correct, JD? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
so the auction items are pretty robust this year.
I look forward to it. I didn't actually bid on
Where's that
anything
one?
last night at Western Welcome Week, because
Same.
I just realized, I'm like, I'm gonna save my money for Ovation.
You've used up all your luck now.
You're going to Maui.
That's right. It'd be awesome.
So it is the start of the semester, everyone. Just, I am dying. So the Affordable Arts Festival is Sunday, August 24th. I put a bunch of things on the table.
Any money you don't spend at Ovation, there you go.
Yeah, it's gonna be a madhouse, good lord. I have the gallery calendar for all the shows this fall. The free workshops are going on this fall. I have some posters if anybody wants to hang them up.
Are you looking at me? So I'll take them. We'll see if you.
I'll pick one.
Okay.
Okay, here, I'll take one.
I was gonna bring them for Dennis, but he's not here. And then also the catalog for
And grab
community
one. I'll
workforce
get one to Dennis to put
programming
in the library too.
is also out. So this is all community workforce programming is out.
Okay.
And all the students come back next week and it's gonna be crazy. And thank you for having faith in me to be able to wrangle those lone tree.
I actually didn't, I wasn't sure who got elected on the last, because there was 3 open board positions. All 3 people are Centennial.
Oh, were they?
But we really
All 5 people.
like Elizabeth Watt.
Oh, yeah.
Elizabeth, yeah.
She runs the Littleton Lifestyle magazine.
Oh, cool.
That's good.
I don't have anything.
I just started volunteering as an ESL tutor at the Immigration Resource Center at the library.
Oh, great.
It's awesome, and they're always looking for people, so not that any of you have extra time, but it's great. So I've had a great experience.
I did that a couple of years ago and I had a great
Yeah,
experience
it's
too.
awesome.
Worked with a South
Mhm.
Korean guy who was just lovely, so
That's awesome.
that's cool.
I will be at Ovations. Blue Spark HR Solutions has a table. And then Lift Up Littleton Longer Tables is September 24th. And my company also has tickets to that as well. So please let me know if you'd like to join.
Cool. I don't really have anything. I was just gonna say it was really nice last night. The Western Welcome Week Taste of Littleton happened and I got to see some of you guys running around and having good food and good drink and good time. So it was really nice. I love Western Welcome Week. It's been part of the family since we moved here in 2005. So it's very cool.
Speaking of Western Welcome Week, I'm biking with Littleton Social Cycle in the parade on Saturday. We still have space available. If you bike and want to be in the Western Welcome Week parade, let me know and I can get you on the list.
Mostly downhill, right?
Also.
Gotta get back to where you started.
Drag it back, push it back.
And it
Um,
does start from here at the museum,
does
so
start
you
from
know,
right
you know where the
here.
starting point is.
And it really caught me off guard when I used to live on Gallup Street the first time. I was like, why is there, what is happening?
Yeah, new people in the neighborhood are always taken aback by that Saturday.
Littleton Q Plus just also started a LGBTQ craft night in partnership with Zymos. So that happens on the first Wednesdays of every month now. If you ever want to just come hang, and you don't have to be gay to come, but
When is it, in the evening or?
yeah, it's at 6 p.m. on the first Wednesday of every month
And where is it?
at Zymos Brewing over by Walters on Lowell.
So there's an age range, then you have to be 21.
They have a lot of non-alcoholic options. You can be under 20.
My daughter would just.
They have like a house-made ginger ale and stuff. And then we are full steam ahead planning Big Pride Littleton, which is on October 11th this year, which I believe is the same day as the Harvest Festival.
It
I'm
is.
really sorry. I thought about moving it
I come
to,
to your event too.
I thought about moving it up, but this year, October, that weekend, that Saturday is National Coming Out Day. So it's kind of a perfect.
Let us know if we can
Day to
help
have
cross promote though, because
Yeah, for
we got a
sure.
lot of stuff that we'll be putting out for Harvest Festival. We can certainly help out with
Okay.
that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Some stuff at Craft Fair.
Yeah,
Wait, the week
yeah, the week
before?
before we have our craft fair and
Oh, cool.
park next to, we could, yeah, if you get that to us, we can get it, we can make sure it's out there.
Yeah,
for,
I can get you
that
some
crowd too.
materials when I'm.
Cool.
Cool.
Farmers market still going on?
Farmers market's still happening every Sunday through the end of September. And yeah.
And a
lots of
wildly
things happening.
successful gala.
We had a wildly successful gala. Joel was there. We had a great time. We raised 8 times what I expected. However, I only expected $1,000.
Still.
But we-
That's great.
Yeah. That's great.
but we raised $8,000. It was great.
Congratulations. That's good.
Western Welcome Week is 4 or 5 days from wrapping up, but certainly there's still a lot of events to participate in. There's a concert on Friday night up at Clement Park by the Littleton Symphony Orchestra. Then there is the parade and all of the activities associated with it on Saturday. Gallup Street is the place to be. Actually, you can see the entire parade and chit chat with people. And if you watch out for JD and Brianna and our little red wagon, it's a great place to stop by and visit. And then the Littleton Symphony is at Hudson Gardens on Sunday. Those are the ones that I know about. And then by the time we meet again next September, sort of the fall seasons of all of the entities and organizations and college will be in full swing. So will be lots to do over the coming months.
Summer's over, pretty much.
So dovetailing off of what you just shared, Littleton Ballet rarely has an opportunity to perform here in Littleton, but we have 3 performances this weekend that are all local. 2 with the Littleton Symphony Orchestra, the one that's at Clement Park, the one that is at Hudson Gardens, and then a really fun one. It's the reprisal of Alice in Wonderland this fall. So they'll be doing some of the Alice in Wonderland at Vega Park at 1 o'clock on Saturday. So go support the ballet.
Fabulous.
Vega Park on Saturday at 1. you
1
said?
o'clock.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
After the parade.
Right,
Okay.
yeah,
Just
we're gonna be
stay-
down
just stay
there.
down there.
My
We're
daughter's
gonna
covering
stay
it for
for
the
the-
newspaper, so we're gonna be down there with her, so.
Oh, to dovetail on that, lift up longer tables, we'll have Littleton ballerinas and ballet dancers. They won't necessarily be performing, but they will be there in full costume. And then ACC's band, I believe, will be performing. We're ironing that out tomorrow.
Jazz band, right?
The jazz band, yep.
Which is a very good jazz band.
That's fun.
So there will also be a juggler.
Oh.
Very exciting.
And a juggler.
We nix silent disco, maybe in the years to come. No silent disco.
I don't have too much to add. Just talking with folks in the community, I don't need to say this to this group, but it's important that people be kind to one another and, reach out to your neighbors, and if somebody's feeling down, check in on them. Things can be tough for folks for all kinds of different reasons. I know you all share these same values, but thought it was worth saying. I'm really excited about Western Welcome Week. I have never been in a parade in my life except for a thing called the Maple Festival in a place called Cattersport, Pennsylvania. Where I was wearing a green beret as about a, fifth grader playing a euphonium in a marching. Looking forward to it.
I think maybe next month you should bring a picture.
This is not nearly as exciting as Green Berets and Euphonium, but very close to that level of excitement. We have bound copies of the strategic plan over there. Thank you for the reminder, Becky. Please each take a copy for yourselves and any others that you would like to distribute to anyone else who you think might want one. I have a lot more where those came from and we want to get them out.
They're all in her office, so she really.
Yeah.
That's nicer than the one I printed out.
Yes, just found.
All right.
Same here.
I was gonna say, we were talking about the 2004 sculptures. So that year we bought a Watchful Eye, which is a bear sculpture down at Hudson
yeah.
Gardens. It's the mama bear.
Yeah.
And that was bought in conjunction, it's a memorial piece for Mary Bradford's daughter. So it was bought partially from the Fine Arts Board and Bradford Auto Body. Then this, as you are coming into the museum here, it's the sculpture that looks like a quilt by an artist. It's a bronze by an artist named Bill Weaver. And then there was a mosaic by Gary Monaco that is at, in the courthouse as you're walking up the stairs. So I think those three pieces, and then the sunflowers were bought in 2002, but they weren't installed on site here at the museum. Until 2005. So, and oftentimes with artists, we start a project and then it takes more than a year. So they get paid a couple years down the road too. So I think that's where the chunk of that.
They were on the Greenway first, weren't they? Greenway.
I don't know. I
I think
can take a look at that. But, and then the only other thing I wanted to say is congrats to Anna, who wrote the beautiful piece about the Plein Air Arts Festival, which is, the exhibit is this weekend. It opens this weekend on Sunday from 1 to 4 p.m.
Beautiful show in the art gallery in the town hall.
Yeah,
And
it's really
I
nice.
went down last week. Jenny has 2 pieces in it herself.
It's in the DL, but.
No, it's pastel, it's
Oh,
watercolor, it's mosaic, it's photography, it's everything. And it's all women artists, it's all plein air, it's all Littleton. It's very cool.
Everything was painted within the city boundaries.
Yep.
Do they have particular hours for that? For on
Town Hall Arts Center hours, I'm not sure what they
Yeah,
are.
the opening itself is 1 to 4 on Sunday,
Yeah.
this Sunday. And then after that, I don't know, but I can let you know.
It was
That's great.
sponsored by the Colorado Caucus for Women, I don't remember what it
Women's
is, but it's
Caucus.
a
Yeah.
women's caucus, which is a
And
grant
through-
recipient.
Yes.
Nice.
Anna, great job.
Well done.
Well, thank you all very much. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.